The thing that we must do in life is become ourselves, our authentic selves. And sometimes we don't know what that's going to be. And we don't know how we're going to get there when we come into this world. And sometimes it can surprise you. And sometimes it's so surprising that you have a hard time believing it. And we may have a hard time, difficult time even believing what's going on in our lives now or in our world. But I'm going to talk about that. And I've had a very long life. I've done so many things. Businesses in the very beginning of my life didn't know what I was going to do in the beginning because I'm going to follow, what my parents were going to do. And I kept bumping around in so many different things till I ended up being a vocal coach, which probably more people know me of that because I started that in 1988. And so for 35, 6 years or whatever, I was being a vocal coach. But then something changed. And that's what I have to talk about. In 1988, I started doing a process called automatic writing. And I did it because I was scared. I had been moving through fear my entire life since I was a child. I tell this joke. My mother used to always say that I was just careful about everything, which was saying I was afraid of absolutely everything. And I could go back and find reasons for that possibly and maybe justify it. But the fact was, it was really impacting my life. So in 1988, when I took this new position, I said, I've got to get some help. And I just heard about this automatic writing thing, didn't know what it was going to do. And I sat down for several days. I had been meditating. And so then one day it felt like something took over my hand and I'm writing and I didn't understand it. And it actually frightened me. And I'm just being quite honest. It really took me off. But I did it every single day. And I'm working with clients. I started to work with clients. I'm receiving information about how to work with them. I'm receiving information about how to perform. And they were giving me information about how I could perform. And it was so bizarre that I wasn't going to tell people. I kept them hidden for almost 20 years because I wasn't going to bring it out. And then the only reason they came out is because someone found one of the messages on my desk at the time and asked me where it came from, and I had to sheepishly tell them it came through me. And then they asked me to start sending them to them. Then other people started doing the same thing. Someone else said, "Oh, put up a website." I wasn't going to do any of that. I was going to completely hide from it because it didn't make sense. I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to be any of that. And in the meantime, I'm going through so many different things in my life that this information is telling me, wow, this is how to get through it. Because it was very difficult. Now I'm going to go through this presentation, then I'm going to go through and give some talking points just so you understand. This comes down to understanding our science, understanding who we are, understanding human potential, because we all have that ability because it's all in consciousness. And we come to understand that everything that we experience is in our consciousness, and then everything in our world is energy. And then when you put the two together, you can kind of figure out how to navigate things, which didn't make sense to me while I was doing it because I didn't know that that was happening. So let me share this. And oh, I need to share my screen as well. Second. Yeah. Okay. So, so now I'm going to start with this claim because this is what I was given, and I know that I've seen now that it's absolutely true. The plan that could change your life and our world. And that message, I would have never said that before, but in 2024, that's what started to come through. And then they started giving me some verifiable proof of that. And I'll tell you what happened. Now, again, like I said, I never wanted to do this. I called myself the reluctant mystic for a long time. When people would ask me about it, I wasn't going to say anything um, because I couldn't explain it. and I was really hiding for so much of my life. And I would receive messages over the years saying, "Stop hiding," which we all do because we don't know where we're going. It's that unknown of who we might become. So this is what happened. In 1989, I received this on February 19th was the message that kind of told me something now. And that became relevant later, even the date because of February 19th. And then in 2012 is when we went through a big shift in the world. But I didn't know that. I'm just saying because I didn't, people were talking about the end of the Mayan calendar and all that. I wasn't thinking about that. But in 2021, it was revealed to me, oh, yeah, we gave you everything you needed to know in 2012. That made absolutely no sense. And I come in my home and I go to my computer and I'm led to a folder that I had not seen that it said Wilhelm on it. And it was all these messages from 2012. Now, certain things that we are kind of unbelievable and we doubt them. Then I heard, well, we have given you a new philosophy because your world's going to be moving through a big change. And we've given you this philosophy called your life operating instructions. Doubted it again. And then they said, and if you meet someone, we've given you a message on their birthday in 2012. So we had to suspend our disbelief. And I'm like, well, how could that have happened? And they said, well, we're all energetically connected. Every soul who comes in has this blueprint within them. And so if I met them where there's a reason for that, and I would see it, and I started doubting it. And then every time I did it, it was working. And people were like, how did that come about? We don't understand all about consciousness or how or time and space for that matter as well. So, but that is how things started to come about. Now, the ADHD was there. I didn't discover that until I was 70 years old. And that was the thing that freaked me out. That was in 2020. And I go, how could that have happened? Because I was told I was the daydreamer. I never paid attention to anything. That was the thing that happened in school. Well, it turns out that's how I was able to receive information that I didn't completely understand because most times I didn't remember it. When I first found the messages from 2012 and I started looking at them, they didn't feel like I had written them because there was this wisdom that I couldn't understand. And I had no memory of them coming through. And I spent days looking at them and trying to find a bad one. And I couldn't because it was all new. It was neuroscience. It was wisdom. It was like just tips on personal development or self-actualization. Everyone was an instruction of what to do. And then that you start to see that, oh, that's changing my brain. Then in 2020, I started receiving different messages. They're saying, we're going through a shift in our world. And then they said, we've given you things that would give you more peace and understanding. And the one message that they gave me in 2012 that they led me to said, conflict and unity always coexist and are necessary for evolution. And then it went on to say that when you answer the questions, that conflict arises within you, then you start to find your unity. And what they were saying is that that unity exists within each of us. But they said this time what was going on was going to be this generational shift. And all of our old things, we go through our individual journey, our individual ascension path, but also it's times in the world where there are collective shifts and we repeat cycles. They started showing me that the cycles that we have repeated before over history, we can look at 100 years. But then they started saying that they're energetically connected as well to the changes of our planets, which I couldn't understand. So this one, I'm going to read this one. This was July 12th of 2020. You are in the process of being restructured. First of all, please note this message has been decades in the making for Roger and you. We are indeed using the collective you in this message, and you may understand why we have taken to using this phraseology recently. It is because you, the individual, and the collective you are evolving, which occurs through the destruction of the old you. Yesterday, Roger attended a family video call with many of his relatives he had not seen in decades. During the conversation, the current affairs of your world came up, and there were comments made in which Roger found himself unable to contain his feelings. And for him, his outburst was shocking. How now you understand why we had him use the Hitler reference yesterday. We always know what's ahead, and we prepare him for those encounters precisely as your guides have prepared you for everything in your life, and you always come to recognize that. The comment that brought up Roger's reluctant voice was one that Roger felt might have been harmful to others. That is the criteria that typically informs Roger's actions. But because he simultaneously does not wish to hurt another's feelings, he remained silent until yesterday. In the middle of his outburst, Roger knew that possibly others did not have the information he did, so he decided to offer to teach. When you discover your reason for being alive, you will also find your passion, and it may come out forcibly and startle you as it did Roger. We will not make this a book, but the restructuring you are experiencing is your understanding of your oneness and the connectedness to all, and using it to aid evolution. At times, you need extreme conditions like a pandemic, or extreme leaders like Hitler, or a country like the United States who momentarily lost its way. The balance you all will experience is complete and total acceptance of you and all others. What we are speaking of is pure love. And these events always cause that to occur. That was the message. And from that point on, I started to receive something different. And then that's when in 2021, they began using this more of that and telling me that we have information. The first message they gave me in 2012 was called infinite intelligence, meaning we all have infinite intelligence and we bring it into the world through our consciousness. And we have to decide how much we're going to allow to come through. But what they were telling me is that the information they were giving me came from all those great minds that had come before. I had no idea that was happening because at one point I'm looking at documentaries about Einstein and all these different people, and I couldn't understand why that was happening. Now, the Copernicus thing is there because I didn't know why that came up, but the date of that February 19th message where they said this work could change your world, that was Copernicus's birthday. And they said he had the same difficulty you have because people didn't believe him at first. And now everyone looks at the world in an entirely new way. And they said, this is what this information is that we have given you. And again, doubting it was crazy. Now, they said, but you're going to have a difficulty because they kept talking to me about cognitive dissonance. I go, what? That didn't make sense. They said, yes, you're going to present something to people, but because they haven't seen it, this is why they had me studying neuroscience, because they haven't seen it done before, they're going to have difficulty believing it. And that's what always happens when new works or something comes into the world. And we can struggle with that. And that's what I was moving through for the longest time, which is why I had to explain all of this in terms of the science of it. Now, you have to understand that this is what I did. I sat every single day and received messages every single day from that day on. I couldn't let go of it because I knew that no matter what had happened in my life, the day before or whatever, if I did my meditation and received some information, I was better. But what was happening is I was going through everything else. I had and I wrote about this in my book, Overcoming Fear, a guide to, I went into a bit of it. I haven't told all of it. But I had so many different things. The cluster headaches, which were, I suffered from those for decades, actually, off and on. And those are called the suicide headache because you don't want to live because they're that painful. And I went through that. And the hepatitis and the addictions, had something that came down on my foot nobody could understand. I spent a month in the hospital. They had to take part of my left foot off. I had to learn to walk again. I was clinically depressed. I mean, you name it. Everything happened. And I go, why is this happening? Why am I going through this? And I felt like I'm just being punished. But what was happening is I was receiving information that led to healing that no one that I couldn't explain. And I wouldn't talk about it either. And that was the one thing that it kept coming up in some, because we get embarrassed, I don't, why did I have this? But the fact is, it could help if I could own it myself. And many of us will go through that. Then I said, well, why did this work? And then they started explaining, and I didn't know. It was the neuroscience of it because I'm sitting and receiving something every single day, and it's new information. Again, this is wisdom because I didn't have this. This was not me. Often tried to explain that I am not Wilhelm because I didn't have this wisdom. I didn't have this information. And when I looked back at it, it was like kind of surprising to me. Then something else started to happen, and this was only recently. They started to show me that a lot of the information they had given me was also during particular astrological changes in our world. And I was just receiving that and putting it together and had no clue of it, like a full moon, a new moon, whatever, or a conjunction. And that's what started to happen. In 2021, they said you have to start doing live channeling. And I wasn't going to do that either because it was going to be too embarrassing. And they said, well, you might have to break. I didn't know if that meant me or the world, but I started doing it. Then more information started coming through that I had no awareness of. And then when I do a channeling session, I don't remember it. And I had to become accepting and comfortable with that because I had this, people would say to me, you are a pure channel. And I rejected it. I said that couldn't possibly be. And when it started showing up, I said I had to like really integrate that into acceptance in a different way because I wasn't going to do channeling or do even private channeling. Only started doing that about 2 years ago actually, but because I was able to access information I had no clue of what it was. So then in 2019, that's when I wrote the book because I could feel that I had something I had to start talking about, but I'm so introverted that I was going to hide out. And I said, that's not helpful. And so I had a friend who helped me get the book done. And I put in the preface right in the beginning that the only difficulty I had in writing the book was fear because I didn't want to be judged, but I had to do it. And so then after putting it out, though, people were starting to say how much it had helped them to understand things. And that's what goes on when we hold ourselves back. There are other people who are waiting to hear that information, and we're just dealing with our own stuff, and that's what I was doing. But again, it was something that I couldn't explain because I'd never seen it before, especially the dates, because I never studied astrology. I never looked at it, and they started showing me all of the things. And anybody can go to my site now, Any Advice for Today, and look at an upcoming new moon and take the Wilhelm message, and you will see that it will be relevant to the energies that are going to be moving on that day. And I could never explain how that happened. And it also made it challenging to explain to others, but they said we all have to suspend our disbelief because that's why we don't evolve. They said people come into the world and develop different skills or abilities, which sometimes we're not aware of, as I wasn't. But if we can accept it, it can help humankind. So then in 2024, and I'm just saying this because this is on the site, on the website, Any Advice for Today. They said they gave me a message that said accepting this message could change your life and the world. And they had me put down all of these messages on this one date on February 19th, which again was Copernicus's birthday. I said, is that an accident? And then I put it through there, and this is what came out because it says that doesn't make sense. And they said it's not hyperbole. And they wanted to explain this is artificial intelligence. I could have known before. But I was just guided many times to put messages down on certain days because they're energetic shifts that happen throughout time. And when we're aware of them, maybe we can operate differently. There's studies being done now that are showing how changes on the moon and all of that affect us physically, emotionally, mentally, and all of that. So they said, if you think about it, what they had me do, they said, you're going through a change in your world where all the old stuff is coming up. And so one of the reasons that I was able to heal is they had to take me through my generational patterns. And I didn't understand it. In 2016, they had me write an article. People thought this is nuts. They said I might be racist. I might be slightly racist with misogynistic tendencies. And people go, "Why are you writing that? That didn't make sense." They said, "Well, everybody has it. We're souls. We've been here. And so at some time we've been those bad people. At some time we've been had something in our lineage that was holding us back. And so until we acknowledge that within ourselves and then start to move through it, we don't heal and neither does the world." And they said this time, and they gave me so many messages, and there's a narrative that I've since written, I'm going to publish at some point, where they talked about what we would be moving through and what we would see. And everything that's happening in our world right now is exactly what they said. They said you're going, and they said the United States would be leading the way. And I couldn't get that one. Then they started explaining, well, if you think about the planets, when Pluto was formed, it was when the United States, when Pluto moved, I should say, was moving, making this change. That's when the United States made its claim and said, we're going to create this land of equal opportunity for all. And they said, and you didn't do that. So you're looking at it now and trying to make, and it's a reckoning, which is what happens basically when you go through any kind of a return, that you have to look at things in an entirely new way. And they said that the people who would be affected the most would be women and people of color. And that's exactly what's happening. But there's something different that they said as well. There's another aspect of it. Everything is energy again. And when I was never going to do channeling, when they said I had to, they had me start with one message from 2017. And when I have this all edited, I'll have all this stuff in there. But that message said, money, power, love, and control. These are the things you move through in your world all the time, and you're about to do it again. Because you think that the money that people have is what's going to give you everything, and that's never it. And then we keep perpetuating this consciousness of inadequacy, where certain people don't feel like they're enough because they don't have the money and all that. And then the other people will promise you that they have all the money and they'll give it to you. That's never happened either. But we keep believing it. And so they said we wanted this work to cause more people to become empowered, to raise their consciousness and become and attract the abundance or whatever, because again, it's all energy. But we have consciousness or our evolutionary paths that have all been held back. And the one thing, and I'm just going to talk about it, they said for me, it was money because I'm going to help everyone and I'm not going to charge enough money because I couldn't move through that generational blockage. If you go back and hear any Wilhelm message from like 2, 3 years ago, they kept saying, we told you to change the rate. I couldn't do it. I'm thinking that if I leave it where it is, people are going to come in and they're going to do this. And it's not. And you're just going to attract the same people that are still having the same consciousness. And so nothing evolves. And that's my pattern I had to look at. So and then they said, this one message, if more people could own this message, not only would they have this great different life, but the world would change. And this is it. Your story is unique and valuable. It is unique because no other soul shares precisely your story. It holds the utmost value for you. Your story is comprised of everything your past holds, including all that has occurred for you, happened to you, everything you have done, every person you have met, and every word you have spoken. All of it has been and always will be perfect. Your only job then is to seek to know the perfection of your story. Any aspect of your particular story that you attempt to ignore, dismiss, or judge will cause you to experience some difficulty because you are refusing to receive the information and wisdom that your story holds. And that last paragraph was talking to me because that's exactly what I was doing. And because I couldn't talk about it. And then I would feel I would hold back because I'm so empathetic and I would see people suffering with something and I'm like healing and getting better all the time. So I'm not going to say anything to them because I don't want them to feel bad. That's never helpful. And that's what came about. So so then in 2021, I decided that, okay, let me tell you, I wasn't going to do this, but they told me in 2021, take people and put them in the program, give them our messages, and have them work with it. And so I said, okay. I just followed along. I took some people, and I only took 31 of the messages. You saw that cabinet. How much is there? I have 20,000 pages that I've written, and I put these people in this program and I was freaked out because they came out so different so quickly. And they were doing things and dealing with things that it took me decades that I would, before I looked at it, before I would even deal with it. And this was um, the beginning of January. This was January 2022 when they said this.
I find this work is very powerful. They change a lot very quickly. It's like quite surprising how things are changing for me.
I want to say how grateful I am that you've done this. And the time that you've put through on this is just amazing. And as we get older and we put through something like this into the world, you don't know the benefits of it until years later.
I just want to thank you for the program. Probably a year or two ago, if there was a tough decision to make, especially about money or anything like that, I would let fear and worry guide me away from a decision that might have helped me grow.
I have moved. I have made some positive changes. Hey, good, bad, or ugly, you did it. That's the main thing.
When you say the time is now, and I always appreciate it because now more than ever, I feel a little bit more satisfied myself because especially lately, I keep leaving a project not finished.
I love the program. I love the questions, but I think that being aware of everything that's inside of you and bringing it out onto paper, it really does make you step forward in that area.
The way the questions penetrate into your memory and into your past experiences is so unique. Yeah, it really goes deep very, very quickly. I mean, I'm only on day 3, but the way like the questions are presented and the things you read before and the whole steps you go through, probably a lot of people's experiences, but it goes really deep, really, really quickly.
I mean, every day has its difficulties, but like, it's better than it was. You know, I mean, I'm doing more things that I enjoy, and like I find that I personally feel like I'm meant to do my book and everything. And then with the acting, I'm working on all that.
I've been taking so much courses, like especially with this pandemic, I approach different from Tony Robbins, from Bob Proctor, from Jack Canfield, and also I've been following Abraham Hicks, but never really brought me the result that I wanted to do it. So I'm very, I mean, this course is very more, I found that I think it's a bit faster.
Roger, I just wanted to say thank you again, because a few years ago I realised that voice coaching wasn't the only thing that I could do, and that I had something else. But I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what it was.
So that's why I did the program, and that's why I'm continuing it, because quite honestly, what happened was that freaked me out. We will have this disbelief about what we can do, all of us, and then when it happens, like, oh no. But also because I didn't understand it then. You see, I didn't know why it was working in the way that it did, but now it's been shown. It was the science of it. It was that's what I was doing. I was sitting down and working with something every day and changing, getting new information. Then it became cumulative. That's how I started to heal. You start making new connections, and everyone operates the same way, but we just have different evolutionary paths. But we're all humans. And so, um, if you saw there, the thing that surprised me, those people were different ages, from different countries, they were all different, but it worked for every single person. And that's what I wanted. And they said, this is the thing that can cause your world to heal. If more people heal themselves within, because they said the difficulty, the conflicts that we're seeing out in the world are conflicts that exist within us, because we're carrying energy like that as well. And so the more of us who could shift and come to that higher state. But the problem, the difficulty was belief. I talked about it so much, and because people hadn't seen anything like this, they couldn't believe that it was done. So then what I did, I kept moving things around and go, okay, maybe if I charge more. That's what happened the first time. I was meeting with people and they kept saying, Roger, you should be charging $5,000 for this. I said, I'm not going to do that. I don't. And they said, well, that's what everybody else is doing. That's what all the other coaches, the big guys are doing, and you should do it. And I kept holding on. And that's what we do sometimes. They said, we're all going to have these generational biases that we need to move beyond. But the thing that was the main one during this time was how we would be controlled, in a sense, by not having our consciousness develop. That's the other thing. When I did the first challenge sessions, I go, why am I doing this? They said, well, you're going to come into a time where you're going to see billions of people all across your globe who do not have control of their consciousness. And we're seeing that in different countries, and we're seeing it absolutely everywhere. And they said, so if more people became empowered and know who they were. And so then before here, and the reason they said the United States and what we were seeing, we were going through so much then in 2020 because of the pandemic and all of that. But then we also had an election. And that was real, that brought up everything. And so, but it always shifts back and forth. And then we had the 2024 election. And then the consciousness of so many was taken over then. And now we're looking at what happened? How did that happen? It's because we weren't paying attention. Then what they told me, and I'm just going to share this because I think it's not in the presentation, but I'm going to find the message. Nothing's happening accidental. We're just not paying attention or believing it. They kept giving me messages about Barbenheimer. I don't know if do you remember when that phenomenon was happening? It was when the two movies came out, Barbie and Oppenheimer. And they said, and so people put the words together, because people were seeing both movies. And they said Barbenheimer wasn't accidental. See, we think things are happening in our world accidentally. They're not. We're just not understanding the shifts in the energy. And so the one that I'm just going to read this one to you because I think it's important that I want everybody to kind of get this one. And when we don't look at we will repeat history if we're not paying attention. The other thing that would come through all the time, they said, if you would study your history, which is, I guess, why they had me doing that. If you were to study your history a bit more, you would not be as afraid, or you would understand the shifts that are going on. And so here is that message, and it is this. I'll read it because I think it's vital. Okay. And it says, Barbenheimer wasn't accidental either. We decided to use references to your entertainment today so you might witness more of your brilliance. The name's creation also seemed random when someone combined the titles of two eagerly awaited films to be released on the same day, which was also not accidental. You all possess that creativity. The friction behind creating the films and their history also seemed accidental. The failed attempt at reconciliation is also a worthy reflection. This time in your world, with all the current conditions, is only incidental if you believe you are. Deep thinking will bring awareness. Both creators had vision and foresight before they had awareness and could never have known their accidental debuts would have such a profound impact on your world and society. You can never know that for yourself if you continue to think you were an accident. The message we gave you on this day in 2012 will be accidental if you believe you could never achieve your dreams. We said we had given you an ascension guide, and nothing we have provided you for decades in this manner has been random. We always wanted to lead you to euphoria because it would mean you have come to love yourself and others. You still have work. 2000, July 22nd, 2012. You can experience a state of euphoria when you create what you desire with no regard for expected results. When you hold your ideas of what results you might receive from your efforts, you will either place limitations on them or project the exact opposite of what you desire and create that instead. This will make more sense when you attempt to hold an expected result of what you desire and notice that the unwanted result will also come into your consciousness. When you hold no expectations, you experience joy, happiness, and access to all your abilities and talents, which is that state of euphoria. It is possible to continue that state with practice and persistence. Again, um, I I did not write that, and this is again this the thing that was I had to come to accept. I was receiving this guidance, and it was aligned with everything. And then what started to happen, um, with again when we started to look at them, they would say that they had given us all this information that was energetically aligned with the changes that were happening. And so the reason that the United States was having and what's going on right now still is that we're trying to come to this reconciliation within ourselves to become these powerful, empowered people we're meant to become on this earth. That's where we are. And that's what this work is about. And so this is why I needed to explain to everyone each person has the ability to heal, to thrive, to because all you do is you're moving through the limitations that have been there, and then your brain changes, and then you start doing things in a new way, and then you start thinking of yourself in a new way, and that's what happens. Because I'm 74, and to have gone through all of that, and I'm getting younger, that's how it feels, you know, because it's again, it's here. But I had to go through all this stuff to get there. I mean, the the things that I went through, the which were so unbelievable. But I can say to you now, however, that it was worth it to bring forth this work, because then the other people don't have to do that. And so that's what happened on the very first intake of this work. The first day, first before we did the first meeting, I don't read I don't read the assignments that people do because I want people to have their autonomy. But on the first meeting, I said I have to see something. I have to look at something. I'm not going to read all of it. I just have to see something. And I started looking at them, and I stayed up the entire night because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. These people were like uncovering things that I hadn't seen, and I was late. We had the meeting we had, the group meeting was at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't get up because I'm like, but I got them all back and explained what had happened because I was blown away. But I know what we can accomplish, and I know what this work can do for people. And so, and this is why I've got to really step it up and take and get it to more because we're going to still keep moving, as you've probably felt or seen. We're still moving through some really dynamic changes right now. And it's about we have to decide that we're going to become okay. Let me say this. They had so many during the session, they says you cannot hate them. You won't do your job. I go, what are you talking about? They said, because you're going to experience all your anger, you're going to experience your blame and your guilt because that's old generational stuff again. and it's all going to come up. And so if you use it to go against, to hate others, you're just putting more energy of hate into the world. But that is, to be able to get to that understanding was really challenging. And especially when we're witnessing people like on the street protesting and all the stuff going on, and that they will be serving a goal there. But if we can remember that what this is doing is causing us to look at ourselves and decide to become more empowered, decide to use that energy of love, because they said that's the most powerful energy. So if we come to love ourselves, then we start transcending all of that. And the more of us who do it, and that's what they said, it needs more people to come together. And so when they told me to put this together, um, to do groups. That's why we do the group meetings, because when we come together, we start to talk everything out. We work through things. And in the beginning, I didn't know if I wanted to do that because that was a commitment. I said, I gotta commit to this. And then what I found is that I look forward to them now because they help me. Because when I'm getting so much from it when we go to those meetings. And it brings us up to a different level, like-minded souls coming together. And then we're also processing, talking about the things that we're uncovering within ourselves. Because we never stop evolving. It doesn't matter how old we are, whatever we're going through. It's always the same. There's more we can do. But just sometimes we get stuck. And that's what this is. And so what I'm doing now is I'm going to leave. The price is so ridiculous now. It's been that way for the longest time, and people go, and I think that's why people don't enroll, because they say this must not be worth anything. People told me that would happen, and so and I didn't change, but now I have to change because I've done myself in, and that's not being a really good example. I love people so much, and so I just think, we're just going to come and everybody's going to come together and kumbaya. It ain't going to happen because we gotta move through stuff, and so that's what I wanted to give you all. But anyway, I wanted to see what have any questions or anything, and some people have done the work and might want to say something. Anything. Any questions? You guys want to know something about it, or again, it's about you coming to your soul, understanding your soul. This one thing they said, this is like self-actualization, personal improvement, and an ascension path, guide all at once. Hmm. Do you have something, Claire? Somebody have something?
Yes, if I just butt right in here. I want to say that you know, at a certain point, I hear these things over and over, and I say, why is he repeating this? And then I realize that a good teacher repeats the important parts, and because we are good at forgetting, and our teacher is the prime example of forgetting, that he has taken on so much information that there's no way he can keep it in one place at one time, especially the ADHD has given him an extra uh, intuition because he can't go directly as some people have.
Well, thank you. Well, yeah, I don't remember it, first of all. And so they said that they've given us an encyclopedia of information. I mean, when somebody says something, I get triggered, and I can go and find a message on exactly what that thing is. Any kind of thing that you might have, whatever it is, I can go and find somebody say something and, oh yeah, they gave us a message on that, because it's just about changing your consciousness. That's what we're always doing.
You
And
you
oh,
mentioned the outburst thing,
mhm.
about when something comes out in an outburst, and these have happened to me times before. And now I understand what it was. You've shown me what actually happened. And
Mhm.
one time was when I was on a long trip with my brother, and he looked at me and he says, "How do you know all of this? How could you possibly have learned all this?" And I said, "I don't know." And at the time, I didn't really know.
We
But
all have that intuition,
yeah,
and it
oh
gets
yeah,
developed in different ways. But we will doubt ourselves as well. And so,
yeah.
I'm sorry,
Well, that's
Rosemary.
the
Yeah,
doubt. We get in our way. We say this can't possibly be true.
that's what I did.
So, and not to want to be called a fool, but that is
That's
really our job is to expose our most ridiculous things that are happening to us, because that is where the evolvement is happening, because new fractals are being created, or we're refractalizing all the stuff
Mhm.
that made us what we were when we came to this embodiment. And that's actually what we're all doing on this
Exactly.
stage.
And that was to gain that understanding. That's what
Yes,
we're each doing.
yes,
Uh,
yes.
Rosemary?
Thank you, Roger. Boy, when you were talking about all the different things you've been through, and we're practically the same age, I could relate to everything that you said. I didn't have the exact same experience, but so similar along your journey. And I don't know if you've been experiencing it, especially this past weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, I don't even know where to begin. So I'm expecting that this is a big upgrade for me because
Yes.
of all this. Okay, and the headaches that are coming with it, and
And if you
even though
saw,
there's,
and the message today on this day,
mm-hmm,
it's they had me put down several messages because this is a new moon. And so energy,
yeah,
so they had me put several things together over time so that we could see the progression of the messages, is which is how we progress in our consciousness and what we're able to retain and then use. But then also we're at a time where there's some of us who have this information because, like you, we've gone through it, and so now we're supposed to bring greater wisdom and information, and so that's why sometimes it feels like you're being pushed
yeah,
with something.
or squashed,
That's right.
because other times throughout all these challenges, I say, okay, that's it, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
And then you
But
get
I'm
through it.
not, and then you get, yeah, no,
And then
well, I quit. I've quit.
uh,
I've
you,
quit so many times,
you
but now
surrendered.
I'm not. Yes,
You
yes, surrendered.
surrendered, and then
So, okay,
you went through it. That's yeah.
yeah,
That's
but not this time. I know that I have just to push through and things are
yeah.
going to get better, but wanted to know if you were experiencing those same things, especially with this new moon.
Oh
So
yeah.
thank you so much for your messages, Roger. It's very inspiring. I really, really appreciate it. Thank
Thank
you.
you. And again, this was the thing that was that I had to just talk about because it was I'm accessing information from somewhere else. And that was the part that was um I never was going to channel. I was never, like I said, oh, this is what happened. I'm going to say this because it'll be helpful. When I first started doing this in 1989, I said I would sit down every day and I would write a question. And I kept doing that because I wanted to know this, I wanted to know that. And then they said to me one day, "Why are you doing that?" It said, "If you wanted to have answers, why are you're asking about stuff you want to know. What about things you need to know?" And then, because I said, "You're controlling things again." And so I said, "Oh, okay." So that's when I changed it and I made it any advice for today. So I said, "Okay, just tell me whatever." And that's how it started coming through. Yeah, Adele?
Well, and I think you touched on the point of like we're all in the awakening.
Yes,
Whether we live in the US or Canada or Europe, we are here for the awakening.
yes,
There's no accident. We all have a body
yes.
and we are here to shine our light. So thank
And
you for
that
your message.
And that's exactly, and that was the one thing. Okay, you brought up a very important message, and I had so many back that I couldn't talk. I wasn't putting them out there. They said you are creating your world, and they said, and if you have any difficulty accepting that premise, you've just uncovered the difficulty you've had in your life,
Mhm.
because they wanted us to realize that we were each that important, that we each matter in that way. But accepting that is what was challenging because of our who we've been and our past and that lineage again. And the lineage this time was going to be really important because it's a generational changes. They said they're oh, that's right. They started giving me information about Gaza and Israel years ago.
Mhm.
about what was going to come up because they said that's those are grievances that have not been resolved, that have not you're still holding on to the same things, and that's why you keep creating wars. This information gets you to eradicate that that idea and that feeling, and that was astonishing. And then I see, and that's I went through such trouble with that because I had their information so early, and then when I started seeing what was happening, I started feeling, oh, I could have done more or something like that. I mean, I couldn't, but it did push me a little bit more because I know it's just an energetic shift. I said, you don't have to go there. It's about the energy. Energy is everywhere. As we're raising our energy here, things will change elsewhere. That would come through in some of the sessions as well.
Well, and I think it's important to realize too that back in 89, 90, no one was talking like this.
Yes.
Like, yeah, Theo was around and Abraham was coming, but they weren't talking about it. Now it's like mainstream. Everyone's talking about
Yeah.
it. So,
And it was to discover that I had all of this because I wasn't going to be, I literally hid from it. I'm just being completely honest. My former partner in the music business said to me at one point, "I think you're supposed to be doing something else." He says, I think you're supposed to be." And I go, "No, I'm not going to do anything woohooey. I'm not going to do anything that's going to seem like that." And that's exactly what I said. And then until I couldn't say that anymore because I knew, and that was the torturous part of it. Like when you hold yourself back from what you could do, you're not helping others and we're not progressing. And so that's why I have to be completely transparent. And so I just have to get help from others to kind of get things done because I'm not a marketer. I don't sell. I don't, all of that. I just want people to have, I've always been the person who want people to have a great life because I don't want them to go through what I did. Yeah, it's it's been a journey, but we are at the place now where we can make a huge difference. This portal that we've just moved through, because it's an energetic portal, it's going to look a little weird because of the things that are coming up, but they said we had to see that. We can't fix something that we are not willing to look at in ourselves or in the world. It has to be uncovered. That's why they said the destruction of the old you. And that's what we're doing to get to that new us. Oh,
it's exciting times.
yes. Somebody just came in.
Clarity has a question again.
We'll see. Raymond, sorry, sorry you didn't get in before. But anyway, I will more question. Let me just tell you how the program works because I want this to be there too. When I first started, I called it 4 weeks to your best life because I said, oh, people aren't going to want to commit or take it longer. I said, let me just see what happens, and then I'm testing it as well to see what it was going to do, and then I started noticing that people were finding themselves feeling a little guilty if they couldn't keep up with it every day. Okay, oh no, that's not what's supposed to happen. Because sometimes, and people would talk about this, they would get to a day that would give them so much difficulty and they had to stay with it for a while. And they need to honor that because you're uncovering some deep stuff that you hadn't seen before, and you're not going to necessarily move over it right away. And so I said, well, now we've got to give them, I said, they have to have this, they have to give them time. Then what happened is people who finished those 31 days, they started repeating it. I go, oh, that's interesting. Because they said that when they went back and looked at the stuff they did before, they had such a different perspective now, and it helped them even move to a greater understanding. So I said, okay, they've got to have it forever. So then that's why I said people will own this work because it's like your little diary. and I saw certain people that were basically like writing books, which was really interesting. Long stuff that came out of it. And it was, oh, sorry. Uh, oh yeah, thank you. It's that see, like okay, that's the other thing. I have to talk about that. He said you've really went through it. People look at me and think, oh, he must have had this really easy life because of how I am all the time, most of the time when you see me. Because and there's a message that's in there that they gave us. Yeah, Roger can always put years ago he put a smile on his face while he was suffering. And at the same, a lot of times we do that, but I actually moved through that and I discovered joy because joy is healing. Laughter is healing. And so came through when I started getting through this stuff. It was Norman Cousins, I think that it was his book, Anatomy of an Illness, where he was healing things because he was laughing all the time. He took the Marx Brothers. He loved the Marx Brothers, and he had cancer. He had some, I think that's what it was, yeah. And he would just move through. He kept he would just laugh, and they said, "What's happening?" He started healing. Now this is energy again. Think about that. This is energy of the feelings that we have, and that's the other one of the earlier messages. I'll give you guys this too. One of the earlier messages that's hanging on my wall, as a matter of fact, they said your emotions, because sometimes we get afraid of our emotions. We don't want to experience them. We don't want to feel them. They said your emotions are not an end to themselves. They are designed to lead you to your beliefs. Your beliefs may or may not be based in truth. You see? And so if we give them expression, then we can say, oh, I'm not supposed to be in this place. Why am I acting this? Well, what is it? And so we start to question a little bit more, and then we start to shift things. And it's a process. And they said, and this is what they said, the only reason people don't get to where they're supposed to go is because they give up. And they wanted this work to be something where people had something they could always do and they would not give up and they would get to that destination. And because we need that support. And the other fallacy they said we had this idea that we think we could change something in 30 days. No, we don't. And they had me show a study that was done years ago in London, and some school in London. I think it was London University, where they put all these people into a group to see, they were trying to change something, all different things, and they wanted to see how long it would take them. The average was 66 days. So we had this, we would start to beat ourselves up if we hadn't changed something right away, if we hadn't done it in that 30 days that we thought. That's not always the case. And so this is why, again, we're always moving through so many different things. Yeah, clarity.
When important people have tragedies, such as Robin Williams, and he didn't want anybody to know how much he was suffering. Back to that. But we learned so much about the disease that he had. In fact, just last week, there was a gentleman that died locally here of the same Louis something syndrome that he had, the trapped in body thing. And just recently, Billy Joel had to stop his tour because he had a brain thing. Well, it's hydrocephaly, which is more common. I didn't realize it was common. It happens later on in life. I mean, I've heard of babies being born with it. But anyway, he needed to be put a shunt and drain this fluid off his brain. He's probably going to be fine. But what I'm saying is, when these important people, things happen, it brings our attention also to what the brain and our internal process is. And we're learning more and more, back to the neural thing, about the brain. And it's our consciousness is not just locked inside our skull.
I'm glad you said that, because um, I was raised a Christian Scientist, and that's where I grew up. That Christian Scientist is where that we didn't go to doctors, didn't do medicines and all that. I was sick all the time. That didn't work. I just had all these terrible things. My grandmother, who was a devout Christian Scientist, she was always really healthy, and I was so frustrated. And I said, and I would see her every day though, studying something every morning. She was sitting there studying her a Bible and something else, this other book from her church or whatever. And so she did every single morning. I didn't put the two together for years. But she said to me when I was so frustrated, and I asked her, why am I doing this? Why am I having so many difficulties? And she says, well, you work to the level of your understanding. And I never forgot that sentence. And then it started to make sense because that's what was happening over time with this information. It kept changing things. And I know that more of us can do that.
My grandmothers have been helping me a lot lately. I only met one of them, but they all are me. I was once, there's no break in the chain between me and all my grandmothers, so they're all here. And since I've realized that, wisdom has come so much easier. It's like, yes, they're here to knit me a sweater, sort of like that. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, and that's what we have to take into consideration, those hereditary traits that we will pick up. We all do, and that's what we have to work. What's going on now? It's things that we are carrying forth, and many times they don't surface. The limiting ones are the ones we're meant to move beyond now for all of us. So, well, anybody else have anything you want to say? Any question or anything? Anything at all? Great. Well, listen, I want to tell you, thank you so much. I'm going to put this out. Everybody will receive the replay. And so, like I said, I'm going to have it at this rate, what is for the next couple of days as people watch the replay. And then I got to change it all because I want to bring more people in. I got to get help doing it because I can't do it alone. And that's why I didn't have staff to get certain things done. And we have to move up. And so I'm giving everybody, a few days to look at it at this rate.
And you have a theme song now.
What's that?
The Mend the World.
Oh, okay, yes. Okay, we'll leave it at okay. I'll play it so it's here. No, that's a good point. We will have things that we do in our lives that we will connect the dots later, so to speak. We don't really know. I wrote a song with a friend. We wrote this song in 1986 called Help the World to Mend. And just felt we were moving through some times then too. And so we just felt called to do that. And then in 2020, in 2020, I recorded it. Is that right? No, I'm sorry. 2000. I wrote it in 86 and then I recorded it in 2000. And now I'm finding that it's appropriate today. There's just a cycle. So let me play it for you, and that'll be how we will end our day. Let me find it.
Get some Kleenex.
Okay.
Everybody, get some Kleenex.
Oops, sorry. Nope, not that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Share this with you. It's only 3 minutes, so then.
You can make a difference if you really try. Set your sights on heaven and just start to fly. Lift your wings and take off for the sky. Spread your heart and hold the world it cries. Now, just before the end, don't you think it's time we just made friends? Before long, you'll be gone, and I'll wish you were back then. So take now and help the world to mend. You can make a difference if you really want. You can feed the homeless or have no response. Raise your voice and choose the life you want. Hold your tongue, insanity goes on. And now, just before the end, don't you think it's time we just made friends? Before long, I'll be gone, and you'll wish I was back then. So take now and help the world to mend. You can make a difference if you really choose. Everyone can win, 'cause if not, we all lose. Stop the wars and start to see the truth. You are me, the ageless and the youth. And now, just before the end, don't you think it's time we all made friends? Before long, we'll be gone, and we'll wish it was back then. So take now and help the world to mend. Take now and help the world. Take now and help the world. Take now and help the world to mend.
Okay.
That was beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Alrighty, guys. Thank you all so much.
You made me cry twice today, Roger.
Yeah, it always gets me. Yeah. Great. Thank you so very much. And again, I'll send this out, and everybody will have the replay.
Yeah. Right on. Right on.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.